We are glad to see you again on our channel. And today we have a review of a movie where a guy and a girl rent a villa for a romantic weekend, but get caught up in strange events involving a new acquaintance. The film is about trust, about peeping. Brian and Cassie, a young couple, book a luxury villa for the weekend in Tuscany, Italy. On the way there in the car, they play a game of two truths, one lie. Cassie says that the house has a wine cellar with unlimited access to it and a swimming pool. Brian and Cassie arrive at the house. It looks even bigger than in the photo. The girl takes the key from the secret place and they go inside. There's a bottle of wine on the table and a note from the landlord saying they have the house for 6 days and if they need anything, the landlord's in the next town. Cassie goes into the shower and Brian looks at the master's records with music. He opens and pours the wine. The couple sit on the terrace, drinking wine and talking. Brian's phone is notified, and Cassie offers to turn it off for a week. The guy asks if she is ready to give up Instagram, to which the girl replies that she does not need Instagram when she is with Brian. Cassie laughs and says she has a couple of ideas for them to do, and she'll show Brian as soon as he puts the phone away. Brian goes upstairs, puts his phone in the room, and sees missed call on Cassie's phone from some Justine. Brian is angry, but puts the phones in the shelf and goes down to Cassie, who is naked and swimming in the pool outside. She says she loves him and they start kissing, but Brian stops abruptly, telling Cassie that the gnomes are looking at them. The girl leaves. After a while, Brian comes to Cassie, who is lying in bed, and says that they came here to sort out, so he offers a game of two truths, one lie. The girl is taken away on the pretext that she is already asleep. Brian says the first one she's not sleeping, she just doesn't want to talk, and the second one is that he took 3 Viagra. But Cassie is silent. She sleeps or pretends. Brian goes to see what else is in the house. He reviews the books and finds one called Eros, erotic content. Brian takes it, comfortably sits on the sofa, and begins to satisfy himself. At the same time, someone on the monitor can see everything that happens in the house on the cameras. Cassie wakes up the next morning and sees Brian sleeping on the couch in another room. She prepares breakfast and goes out for a run, leaving a note on the table, "Good morning, asshole. I went running." Brian wakes up and goes to have breakfast. Cassie runs into the woods and is overcome by memories. The name Justin on her phone, angry Brian. She clings to something and falls, hurting her leg. She walks towards the house on the road with a heavy limp. A red car passes by and the girl honks, stopping it. Cassie explains to the driver that she has sprained her ankle. A guy, Federico, examines her leg and says that if there was an injury, the leg would already be swollen. He offers help. During this time, Brian is looking through the things, picks up the box, and looks at it. Federico picks up Cassie. They drive past the house and Cassie says she saw him on their way here. They drive to the house and the girl offers to drink coffee, but Federico refuses. Cassie wraps the ice in a towel to attach to the leg when suddenly Federico goes inside. He says he changed his mind and would drink a cup of coffee. Brian goes to them and asks what happened. The girl introduces him to Federico and tells him that she hurt her leg. Cassie says that a new friend told her about the market and the famous mountain, offers to go there. Federico offers to drop them off, but Brian refuses, saying that they will call a taxi. Federico laughs and replies that taxis do not go here. Federico leaves. Brian notices that he is hot Italian. Cassie says he just saved her and will take them to the city. She takes a shower and asks the boy to come with her. Brian promises to come soon. He sits in a chair and looks at the ring while the girl in the shower. When Cassie stands near the mirror, wiping his hair, he sharply approaches her from behind. She is frightened, but the guy starts kissing her. They already begin to have an intimacy, but in Brian's head, flashbacks that prevent him. He apologizes and leaves. Federico is watching all this on the cameras. The next day, Federico takes Brian and Cassie to the city. On the way, he asks the guys a lot, where they were and how they met. Brian replies that in the coffee shop. But Cassie explains that they first saw each other live at the coffee shop and met at Tinder, a dating app. They also say that on the third date, Brian had a romantic dinner and Cassie said she was ready to marry him. And after that time, Brian did not cook anymore. Federico drops Brian and Cassie in town and asks if to pick them up, but Brian refuses. Cassie says it's just a courtesy, but Brian clarifies that a new friend was staring at her. They start to swear. The girl says that she offended him and understands it. She explains that with the other guy it lasted 2 minutes and she was drunk. Brian says he sees her with someone else, imagines them having sex. He asks if the girl is sleeping with him and says that he is still calling her. Cassie asks if the guy took her phone. She says he's ruining everything. And Brian swears that she ruined everything when she slept with another. Cassie leaves in tears. She tries to get into a taxi, but realizes that she has no cash and goes to the ATM. She is unable to withdraw money, and Federico accidentally comes to help her. He helps the girl and says that he is her knight. She says, "You make a mistake once and you can't fix it."
I was ready to marry him after that meal. He hasn't cooked a meal since.
Brian is at the bar having a drink. Federico comes to him and asks him why he is there and what he drinks. He tells the bartender something in Italian, and they bring them scotch and ice. Brian says that Cassie went home. She is not well. And they drink together. Cassie at this time is crying alone in the house. Brian tells Federico that Justin is a colleague. They had a party before which he and Cassie had a fight. Cassie played in the band as a rock star, but dropped out for a girl. He's stuck in the banking industry. The guy says Cassie is his ideal, but he's afraid to propose. He also says that he would like to even the score so that the girl would understand how he represents her each time. Federico goes away for a while. Cassie descends to the wine cellar and takes a few bottles of wine. Federico returns to Brian and he tells him that enough of his sad stories. He asks what Federico does, to which he gets the answer that the new friend, IT guy, does websites. At this time, 2 girls enter the bar and Brian looks at them. Federico notices this and calls the girls, introduces them to Brian. Cassie writes a message from Brian. Federico notices this but says nothing to the guy. He offers the game 2 truths, 1 lie. Brian already looks very bad. He is very drunk. The girl next to him hugs him. Federico calls 3 points. The first, that the girl, Brian, cheated on him. The second, that he will remember all this tomorrow morning. The third, that his girlfriend is now alone at home, and Federico has a key.
Lucio, 2 whisky con ghiaccio.
Next scene. Federico enters the house, goes up to the room where Cassie sleeps. He strokes her sleeping face. She kisses his hand, thinking it's Brian. The next morning, Brian wakes up in a room downtown and can't find his phone. He knocks at a bar, but it is closed. Then the guy takes a taxi and goes home. There he enters the room with Cassie. She asks where he was at night, to which he replies that he decided to spend the night in a hotel. He tells the girl that he lost his phone. In the shower, Brian notices a hickey on his shoulder and remembers a little what happened at night. A girl. He also remembers Federico saying that he has a key. Brian goes outside to Cassie and asks if Federico was in the house. The girl says no, but is surprised that the guy again starts this topic. Brian says that he does not trust him, and the girl clarifies that he does not trust her. Brian says he met him in town yesterday and doesn't want to see him anymore. He goes for a walk and approaches Federico's house. Federico at this time watches over the cameras as Cassie dresses up. He hides the knife and leaves. Cassie sees how suddenly Federico came in and is scared. He smiles and says he wanted to cheer her up. He takes the rabbit out of the bag and says he cooks it well. Brian walks into Federico's house and realizes there is no one there and the house is uninhabited. He runs to his home and sees Federico and Cassie at the table. He calls a new friend to go talk. He tells Federico to leave quickly. Federico asks which girl he liked more. Brian says nothing happened. A new friend says he just wants to cook them a rabbit. They sit down to dinner. During the conversation, Brian asks how long Federico has been neighbors with the landlord, who replies that 2 years. Brian notices that Federico's house looks uninhabited. He asks if a friend has a girlfriend, and gets the answer that Federico is looking for, his only. Cassie notes that if he cooks a girl a rabbit, she will definitely be his. She also asks what her boyfriend told a friend, and Federico says that he claimed how special she is. Then Federico says that it is not so easy to catch a rabbit. First, you have to make him feel safe, trust you, and then wait for the trap to close. That's why it's so elegant. After dinner, Brian presses Federico to the wall and says it's time for him to leave, otherwise he will call the police. Federico leaves.
La victoria of the hunt makes this meal so exquisite.
Brian tells Cassie that he went to his house and no one lives there. He also dials the host's number and leaves a message telling about Federico. Brian closes all the doors and windows. He sits down and tells Cassie about the night. He talks about the girls, but Clara fees that nothing happened. She says she was waiting for the moment when he wanted revving. Brian claims that he wants everything back, and they just took a wrong turn. Cassie says the guy's calling her, but she's not answering. She quit. She confesses her love to Brian and says she wants to spend her life with him. She says she is ready for anything, but he must be ready too. Then the girl tells Brian to get the wine and come to the bedroom in 10 minutes. Brian goes down to the cellar, but the door closes behind him and he can't get out. Cassie finds on the bed underwear, a blindfold, and the inscription, "Put on and wait for me." Brian finds some way behind the bottle rack and goes there. Federico walks into Cassie's room. He silently puts her on the bed and starts kissing her. She can't see. She is blindfolded. Brian finds a way out and tries to get out. Federico hears him and runs away. Cassie finds Brian's phone in bed and sees there a video of 2 girls from the bar. Brian sees a TV video of Federico kissing Cassie. They start shouting at each other. Cassie, in a fit of rage, throws the phone and smashes the mirror. She shows Brian that there is a camera. Brian understands everything and says that it was Federico playing with them. He's trying to call the police, but the phone's not working. Federico comes in. The guy and the girl say that they will not tell anyone, but just want to leave. Federico says that usually he just looks, but this time he's in love. Brian says they will leave as if they never existed and sees Federico pull out a knife. Brian throws himself right at him, knocking him to the floor. But Federico quickly ends up on Brian. Then Cassie hits him from behind his head. He turns to her and tries to get up. The girl strikes again. Then she starts to swear and beat him many times. Brian pulls him off. She says he wanted to kill him. A car pulls up and someone knocks on the door. Brian quickly carries the body away, and Cassie puts a carpet on a pool of blood. The owner enters the house. He talks to a couple and asks if Federico has come yet. The owner also says that Federico used to live in the neighborhood, but then lost his house because of money. He goes to see the whole house. Cassie insists on telling him everything, but Brian tells her it can't be done. The owner goes down to the cameras and sees what happened. He goes to Cassie and asks what she did. Brian sneaks up from behind with a stick, but the owner points a gun at him. He says that they could help each other, that everything should have been wrong. Cassie stabs him from behind. The owner falls. Brian shoots him. Later, Brian finds cameras and a lot of cassettes next to the names of couples. He finds almost all the cameras and burns everything. Comes to shower where Cassie is. They hug, and the girl says that no matter what happens, no one will know. One camera remained. It shows a guy and a girl burying bodies. This video is seen by a lot of people looking at cameras in real time. This is the American thriller, Welcome Home, directed by George Ratliff.